Hello everyone, I'm Gil from AxLabs, and since this is the first time that we are recording a video for the community status update, I'll try to give a summary of all the activities related to our projects. So, this video is all about the projects in the umbrella of AxLabs and the updates, not only what we've done in the past, couple of weeks, month, but also what it's coming next for what you're planning next, right? So first of all, I'll start with Neo3j. And here, like the first thing that we accomplish is an example of how Neo3j can be used for both legacy and Neo N3 at the same project. So we published here a project where we give an example of how apps like an Android app or Java or Kotlin backend can have both Neo3j versions. So someone asked us this, and we were happy to provide it. The second point that we have is NeoFS support in Neo3j. So it's not ready yet. It's something in progress, but soon we're going to be able to develop your backend in Java or Kotlin and interface with NeoFS, like creating containers, uploading files, downloading, etc., etc. Also, setting ACLs. I think this will be possible as well. So, like the whole setup of NeoFS in Neo3j is composed of some components or some projects. We had to split them a bit. That is a bit more independent, I'll say, from the main Neo3j repository. So the first one is the top level, the Neo3j NeoFS SDK. You can take a look on the progress on this branch, NeoFS SDK branch. And then we came up with a different repository called NeoFS API Java because NeoSPCC also have a NeoFS API Go. So this repository basically is the implementation or the protobuf translation from the protobuf descriptions to the Java classes. So it's we didn't implement this actually, but we just run this protobuf and committed the latest version of it in this repository. So this basically are the bindings coming from the protobuf descriptions, right? So, and I think like the most interesting piece of code in this work chunk that we've been doing is the NeoFS API shared library. So what is this? This is basically some sort of, let me see here. This is basically a project where we came up with a shared library with some key functionalities from the NeoFS API Go. So basically, we take the NeoFS Go line code, and then we wrap it, let's say, wrap in some Golang code to prepare to compile this as a shared library. So in the end, if you take a look here in the releases, in the end, what we provide is a bunch of .h and .so files for different platforms, Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, that projects will be able to import in their projects and use to call some function. So the implementation is the same as the reference one, like an SPCC Golang implementation of their client, but we wrap it and then we transform that into a shared library that is compiled to multiple platforms natively. So this becomes completely, it becomes easier for a Python, someone to do a Python binding, for example, or maybe like in TypeScript. Then these languages will have to interface with this shared library here. Of course, that you need to understand some of the models that we have, but we try to not get so much away from what an SPCC built already with in terms of models, in terms of structs, etc., etc. So this is something that we're working kind of hard to because we don't have like a release yet. This is just like a beta, even an alpha version of this shell library. But we are progressing quite well. We're in close contact with NSPCC, to make this happen. Okay. Yeah, as I said, this whole thing is work in progress, and it depends on a stable release of a NeoFS SDK Go, because our share library depends on the NeoFS SDK Go, since we wrap their client, wrap like their classes, their like the structures, and translate to a C-friendly way of exposing this to other languages in a native way, right? So if you would like to know more, we are happy to answer questions in Discord. Now let's talk about GrantShares, which is another project. In the AxLabs context, GrantShares is a DAO, but AxLabs is the kind of the operator at the moment, the maintainer operator of GrantShares as software, So we roll out some new features this like in the last couple of weeks, let's say. The most wanted feature, I would say, that is the edit proposal feature. Then people like the problem is that people sometimes they go submit a proposal, but they were not sure if the text is appropriate. So then back in the days, they had to if they were not satisfied or if the DAO members like gave some feedback about how they should approach the proposal in a different way, they had to cancel the proposal first and then resubmit it. So now proposal authors are able to only just edit if it's in discussion phase. So this is quite convenient, based on the feedback of the DAO members and the whole community in GrantShares. I can demo this like later, but the another feature that we roll out is the new proposal editor. So when someone submits a new proposal, it's back in the days was a markdown editor where like it was a bit more tech focused, but nowadays this editor is a Microsoft Word style. So what you see, what you get editor. It's pretty convenient for non-tech people. I think this will help a lot, on the adoption of GrantShares. And also another cool thing is the timeline of proposals. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna show you here in this tweet. So we tweeted recently about all of these features and other features that we haven't yet roll out publicly, but we made some very nice, how can I say, GIFs highlighting and showing this feature. So here the edit proposal, you guys can take a look at it. Also, we highlighted like some more features like members. Now we have in the dashboard, we have you have like a overview of who voted, which member voted, how many times each member voted, or how many times each member endorsed a proposal. And yeah, so you can also filter and order this. This is pretty cool. Also, yeah, I think like the timeline, it's pretty now it's very intuitive in my opinion, because as you can see here, you have the steps of the proposal. Like you start the discussion, you go to on-chain and then voting, time lock accepted and executed. So there's a better guidance to the proposal author what to do next. And if he's not sure what you're gonna do next, he can just like click on the steps, and then you're gonna see a tooltip saying, yeah, why it failed or why it got rejected. So what he has to do next. So I think that is way more intuitive than it was before. Um, yeah, I think like we roll out several new features, and we got a great feedback. But what is next in GrantShares? And like nowadays we have a bit of a problem in GrantShares that it's very hard to follow up approved proposals. So imagine that, I mean, we gave a grant for a proposal, and then we have to ask again, what is the status? How is it going? When proposal authors have to deliver the first version of what what they promised. So we thought about several ways on how to follow up, but I think the best way to have a bit of control, not control, but to split risk between the DAO and the proposal authors is to have kind of a milestone-based proposals. I'm not going to go into how we're planning this year, but we're happy to share more information if people are like request. But basically, when you start a proposal, you can add some milestones, and then each milestone will have funding associated with it, and then members will be able to kind of veto each of the milestones. Um, I mean, yeah, there are certain things that we didn't like yet wrote in stones, but yeah, if you have like any idea or any feedback on how this should be done, we'll be happy to hear more. So last thing about GrantShares is the Twitter Spaces. Actually, we are back. We are back after I think like 1 month and a bit, a month and a half. Because we were traveling, I mean, AxLabs went to the U.S. campus tour, and then after we've been to a conference, and this prevented us to continue with the Twitter Spaces, but we are back. So we already like scheduled the next one that will be with Voxibrate. Um, and this Twitter Spaces happens every 2 weeks. You should join us and also follow us in Twitter to get these notifications when we schedule Twitter Space. And the goal of this Twitter Space is to get people together, from our community to discuss things about, not only related to GrantShares DAO, but related to grants, related to DAOs as a whole, related to governance, related to how GrantShares progresses. So I think it's a very good venue. I mean, we record every Twitter Spaces, so you can listen whenever you want. And we usually ask guests to join us because then we have like a bit more content. We have like better discussions, right? Yes, I think that's it, folks. So we're gonna have another video next time with more updates of our projects within the Neo ecosystem. Take care. See you soon.
Hey everybody, this is Tyler Adams from COZ, and this is our initiative update for Q4 of 2022. In this brief presentation, we're going to be going through 4 different topics. The first one is our Essential Suite, which encompasses our wallets and our Explorer. Then we'll be visiting the ecosystem tools, and then we'll be discussing props and puppets and what we've been working on there for Q4. And then we're going to spend a few minutes talking about some of our lessons learned from 2022 and some of our strategy looking forward for 2023. For the Essential Suite, that effectively encompasses Neon Wallet Mobile, Neon Wallet Desktop, and Dora. For Neon Wallet Mobile, in Q4, we've made a number of pretty substantial performance enhancements to the product, as many of our users have probably noticed. We've also made a number of enhancements to the backup and security features. We've also added some pretty crucial functionality like with export. We've redesigned our onboarding workflow, so we've streamlined that pretty substantially. We've also really focused on getting people into the ecosystem as quickly as possible. Some of that was off the back of feedback we'd received from Consensus. And then we've also integrated the production version of WalletConnect 2 into the wallet. And this is one of the first products on the market which leverages that, which we're kind of proud to bring that to the Neo ecosystem. For Neon Wallet Desktop, we've updated the pricing solution based on a bunch of feedback within our ecosystem. So now we use the Flamingo pricing API. We've also, as with the mobile wallet, added the WalletConnect 2 production environment. And we've adding on to that, we've worked with a number of the dApps in the ecosystem to also migrate. And then we've also added or really extended the NFT support within the desktop wallet. So now users can go in and they can review their NFTs in a more comprehensive interface. They can also send and receive those NFTs. It's a really nice feature to have there. For Dora, as many of you are aware, we've been working on some performance updates to the API to support the extended resource needs as the ecosystem grows. So that's our V2 API. Right now it's in the production environment, and we're working on parity with the existing Dora API before cutting it into release. The plan there is to make it a seamless migration. So everybody who's currently using the Dora API will be benefactors of these improvements. It'll also add a lot of forward-looking scope for things like WebSockets, and local deployments for private nets as well that the wallets can connect to. We've also recently renewed the scoping activity for some of the front-end features that'll be going into the platform. So we're pretty excited there. One of the major focuses for Dora coming forward is going to be content exploration, and then really some interesting features around tooling as well, where right now Dora is really a kind of a retail project, or we're really going to be adding some cool functionality there for developers. Regarding ecosystem tools, we've updated all of our products to support T5 testnet. We've also been working on a new version of Mamba, which is really kind of a light SDK. We've removed a bunch of functionality, and we've streamlined it so that it really mirrors a lot of the functionality as Neon.js. It's just in Python. So this is really geared towards that user who wants to get in and start interfacing with the blockchain quickly, in potentially like a workshop ecosystem or environment. We've also kind of quietly, for at least for the general audience who's probably listening to this presentation, but for the developer groups, we've released the contract package manager to beta, and we started getting some testing. I know that like the AxLabs team has played around with it, for example. And what this is, for people who aren't familiar, it's a language agnostic package manager utility for managing complex contract dependencies. So this really came out of the props work, where we had many different contracts and they were making contract calls to each other. Managing that complexity gets pretty complicated pretty quickly. So this solution allows you to work with smart contracts in a way that's similar to any other programming language, really, which has a package manager. So you can imagine having something similar to like pip for Python or npm for JavaScript, but for smart contracts. It's a really cool feature that will hopefully deliver on this idea of the smart economy. It really adds a lot of scalability to our ecosystem. If you're interested in trying it out or playing with it, reach out to the COZ team, and we'll get you access before the production release. As mentioned in the Essential Suite slide, we've also done the WalletConnect production migration. There's also a new TypeScript SDK that we've been working on called the N3 Invoker. It's a really kind of ultra high level SDK, and with the goal of aligning the remote contract invocation experience with the direct contract invocation experience. And what we mean by that is that the SDK allows you to toggle between relaying transactions via WalletConnect and directly invoking a smart contract, which is a really helpful tool for app developers. So as mentioned in the Essential Suite, we've also been working on the Dora v2 API. Regarding props and puppets, we have 2 new props contracts in production. We have an icon DApp and a price DApp. These are both being used currently in our products. We also refactored the props project to use the N3 Invoker. We have not cut the release yet, but it's a significant improvement. I think in the near future, we'll also be incorporating CPM use there as well. so we don't need to bundle all of the smart contracts together into a single project. That adds a lot of scalability as well for ecosystem developers. The puppets were used in the token 2049 activation, which we recently did with a chest, and you can see our aluminum chest and kind of the graphic to the right. There's also a new initiative to support puppet usage within the ecosystem. And what we're going to be doing is leveraging some of the consensus node gas, which is being generated to seed fund projects which are using the puppets. And then we're also going to be providing direct product support and marketing support, leveraging the COZ resources for projects which are using puppets. This is really meant to support developers who are using the tools that have been built on N3. Now, kind of looking back and looking forward on 2022 and 2023, the way I've been kind of thinking about this is that 2022 is really our testnet experience with N3. We really entered a stage in 2022 where our tooling became mature enough to build out product that end users can experience, right? As opposed to being kind of these experimental initiatives. And where we committed to product execution, we found a lot of pretty great success. But the problem that we ran into is that because the infrastructure was unproven, a lot of these experiences were somewhat limited in scope. And what I mean by that is, like with the consensus activations, they were relatively limited in scope. We could have scaled that even to be even larger. Some of the wallet shared features, the package manager, even the puppets themselves have been, pretty minimal in the scale of the activation. So I think, it was a success, but it was more of a test experience. Looking forward to 2023, at least for COZ, that's really going to be our go-to-market year. At least that's what I'm anticipating. We've spent this year really trying to position ourselves to bring industry to the N3 platform. And I think we will probably see that starting in the beginning of 2023 and certainly throughout the rest of next year. And our internal tools and our products that we have within the ecosystem are currently aligned. And if they aren't, they will be moving in that direction based on our roadmap to align to that goal of bringing in industry. So it should be a pretty good year for us. That's my anticipation. And I'm looking forward to working with you and enjoying our great and thriving community in 2023. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, Dean here from Neo News Today, just providing our update. So I guess most of you know, I know there's going to be some new people watching this update on YouTube or whatever, know that Neo News Today predominantly, covers news within the Neo ecosystem. Some of you may or may not be aware that we also do a couple of other projects on the side for the ecosystem as well, outside of that scope. And two of those are the GasBot and NDAP. So considering this is kind of a development update, I'm focusing more on the tasks that we do that have a development component. So recently we launched the GasBot that launched on November 14th. And basically, if you don't know what that is, it's a bot that is used on Discord to send and receive NEP17 tokens. So currently it supports gas, candy, FLM, nudes, GM, to the moon, NEP, also BNeo, which is not listed on there. And you don't need a wallet or anything to get started. You just basically, when someone tips you, the wallet is automatically created for you. You can also use the create command to create your own wallet, but it's portable between servers. It's very easy to get started, and any Discord server can install it. So Currently, it's in use on the Neo server, NeoBits, Ghost Market, For the Win, Neo Candy, Meme to Earn, To the Moon, Flamingo, NeoForce 1, and it's a couple others I may have forgotten. And like I said, if you get tipped on one server, your balance carries across all servers because it's tied to your Discord account. As of this recording, it's handled over 1,200 messages, so that includes tips, help commands, withdrawals, things like that. And we're currently doing a 200 gas competition, giveaway competition to support the rollouts. Basically, every time you tip someone, you get an entry in a draw for the end of the week to win 10 gas, and we're giving away 10 prizes of 10 gas at the end of each week for 2 weeks. So you can claim those entries up to 3 a day, and it's just a way to give people a reason to try it and get used to it being there. So I can give you a real quick demo. So this is basically just a test server that we set up. So this is how it works. You hit the send command, and then you choose how much you want to send. So I'm going to say 0.1 gas. It automatically defaults to gas. You can change the token if you want to at the end. So then you put in the Discord user. So I'm going to send this to Edge. And then if you want to select a different token, you can go to the ticker, and I would put in, like FLM or GM or NAP, whatever it needs to be. I'm going to leave it blank because I want it to be gas. And then you hit send, and it'll think for a second as it's processing the transaction. And then once that's complete, it will have automatically sent that gas to Edge. So that's how it works. You can check your balance, see how much gas you've got. This is it sends this to you privately or silently, so the rest of the server that you're in doesn't see that, and then you can kind of manage your balance there. So it's really cool. I've seen it used in a number of different ways already. For example, some people have shown up and said, "Hey, look, I want to transfer some Neo, but I'm used to legacy. I don't have any gas for fees," and someone can very quickly use this command to send them some gas, and away they go, problem solved. So that's that. Next steps for the GasBot would be to address any user feedback. So for example, one thing is that error messages are currently public. So if you see someone who's trying to use the GasBot for the first time and they don't quite know how to use the commands, you might see spamming the public chat, "You don't have enough gas, you don't have enough gas, I don't understand that command." Delivering those messages quietly to the user instead of publicly is one improvement. We want to integrate a gas faucet. So basically, if you get tipped some tokens, maybe you got tipped TTM or FLM or something like that, it's the first tip you've got. To transfer that or to tip someone else, you're going to need gas, right? So integrating a gas faucet to help people get started, it would do a check. Do they have gas? Do they have enough gas? If no, give them the gas they need. If yes, well, we're not going to give you gas for no reason. So I think that will help grease the wheels a little bit. We've kind of tested this manually and it's been pretty cool, but I think adding mini games or giveaway tools into the GasBot that can be used by anyone in the servers really, but also I think people who are leading communities, this would be a really neat feature. So a very simple example would be, for example, you could load up, say, I don't know, 5 gas into your GasBot and start a new giveaway, and it could be a guessing game, right? You could say you could put in a number between 1 and 100, and then say to your community, if anyone can guess the number, they're going to win the 5 gas. Use this command /guess number, and then the GasBot would handle that for them. That's obviously a very simple example. We would love to do more interesting examples than that. If there are any community leaders or people with Discord communities that are watching this, open to suggestions there. But it would just be a really cool way to keep the tokens flowing through the communities, make sure people feel engaged and all that kind of stuff. We're also looking at adding like swap functionality. It's a little bit more of a stretch goal, but being able to swap, say, BNeo into gas if you need it, things like that, would be cool too. I would also like to bring in NFT support as well in the future. So there's a number of things we're keeping our eye on, but we'll probably go to the things that will help with the onboarding, the ease of use, and the community engagement first. So that's GasBot. We also take care of NDAP. So we've done a few updates over the last month or two. Our focus has been on GasBot, as you probably would have gathered. But we have redesigned the homepage, redesigned the statistics section at the top. We've also added the Explore Tokens section and we've removed some fat. So basically this is what it looks like now. You've got your N3 statistics, top dApps, by transactions, things like that. Trending tokens. We kept the Explore dApps here so you can quickly see what's trending by transactions over like a shorter period than up here. This is 7 days. This is 24 hours. We've added the Explore token section here. This is something that we're also going to update too, because basically this just takes the tokens by the overall market cap, but FWBTC and FWF, they're not really tokens rooted in Neo. They are on Neo, but it's a little bit misleading. So this will be updated so we can change this and we'll have Neo-based tokens here, true Neo-based tokens here instead. Added GasBot, just a few things to sort of trim the fat and make it a little bit more interesting if you want to dive straight into the ecosystem. And we've also added the GasBot section here. So this is where, this is GasBot's home. You can add it to your Discord. You can see what tokens are supported. It's got the command information, FAQs, things like that. We also want to add, a list of the servers that are currently supporting the tokens. We've thrown around the ideas of having like leaderboards for who tips the most and things like that. So that will be added in here too. If you're not familiar with what NDAP, is for generally, it's, it's been passed through a few hands. It started with NGD about 5 years ago. Then Next took responsibility of it. We took it over about 2 years ago. And basically we're just trying to make it a really good, number one, app discovery platform, and number two, we're trying to move it towards being more of an onboarding path into the ecosystem as well. And to that end, some of the new things that we're currently working on or scoping at the moment is a gas calculator. It's a very simple addition. How much gas will I earn if I have this much Neo or if I'm voting for this node? Another big priority is the ability to add non-smart contract based apps. So what I mean by that is currently all the dApps you see here have a smart contract on the Neo blockchain. That's kind of like the prerequisite to being on NDApp, right? Because if you're a dApp, you're a smart contract based application, right? But we do have a number of apps that have joined the ecosystem or have launched recently that don't quite fit that. So for example, Neo Soccer, right? You use BNeo to onboard onto that game. You win real BNeo when you play that game, but that portion of the app is currently centralized, so because it doesn't have a smart contract, it doesn't really fit on here. We can't really put it on. They may add that functionality in the future, but it's still a game that people are enjoying. They can use Neo assets on, and we would love to put that on here as well. Other examples include like Greenfinch. It uses the NeoFS native contracts and things like that as well. That doesn't really have a place on here yet. Or Lounge, which was recently released, which uses Neo signing functionality to vote on proposals and things like that, but doesn't actually have a smart contract. These applications need to be on this site. So we're currently designing a way to include them in a way that shows that they're kind of species unique, but also gives people an opportunity to discover them and see what they're all about as well. We want to add additional data sources such as FTW and Ghost Market. So currently our token section, this just pulls directly from Flamingo because that was able to get us most of the ecosystem tokens in the sort of the easiest way for an MVP. But there are obviously other tokens that don't exist here that are very important to the ecosystem as well. Some of them are on FTW. So how do we do that? How do we aggregate that? We would also love to bring in, NFT information on collections and stuff as well. So that's why we're looking at Ghost Market. And then, as I mentioned, we really want this to become more of an onboarding path into the ecosystem. So adding WalletConnect and DAPI is the next step towards that. A very simple example of, how that would help is, we would be adding the gas calculator. Well, following that, you would also then be able to change your vote. Things like that. And then even more interesting down the path, maybe we can allow people to purchase the tokens using FTW or Flamingo, if they find a project they like, and do other interesting things as well. So they're kind of the next steps. The gas calculator and the non-smart contract based dApps are kind of the nearest, the furthest along. Let's put it that way, in the highest priority. And then there's a big list of things beyond this as well. But I don't want to give you 12 items when I know we're not going to get to them, in the near future. So they're kind of our development updates. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to us. You can find us on Discord, or any suggestions, for any of these projects as well. Especially when it comes to GasBot, we really want the communities to, the Discord owners and stuff, to give us their feedback and get involved where they can. So I think that's it for us for the moment, and thank you for watching and listening.
Hello everyone, it's Bob Miller from NeoNext, and it's my first video and voice here in English. Our main focus has been on the wallet extension, and we've made several major updates. Okay, let's go. The first party, what have done? We have integrated new NS both in the wallet extension and the mobile wallet, and everyone can transfer with the new domain address now. Let's see some detail in the video. Okay, enter the domain, and it can be resolved to the new address. Then you can do the transfer as usual. The second picture is NeoLine mobile wallet. Yeah, the same as the wallet extension. We have also spotted the witness rules. The details can be found in the article on our Old Friends Media. You can search for it and have a look if you'd like to. And here is an example of how to invoke with the rules. Here is scopes 16.4 and give the rules. Okay. We have also migrated the wallet extension from MU2 to MU3. The doc shows the duplicated timeline of the MU2. The picture here is the summary of the MU2 spot timeline. And we fixed some cache errors, crashes, and minor updates. The second party, what are we doing now? Here's the story. Not long ago, I just walked around the Discord and just saw the conversation. Ugly design, shit wallet. Thank you, Gil. Thank you. Alright, I don't care. I just think they are on the same side. Anyway, the point here is that we are updating NeoLine for the users like them, not only improving the UI, but also reflecting the local state module. What's the state module? Everyone has experienced a white screen issue when switching between networks or accounts, right? We will solve it in the next big version. And next, the title has been revealed. Yeah. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Here are some UI pictures, both of the wallet extension and the mobile wallet. Yeah. some two pictures. We may modify the way we enter the wallet now. All wallets are managed by one password. User experience like the MetaMask and convenient for users to export or import all wallets. And integrated dApps in the mobile wallet. We have finished the APIs in the mobile wallet. It will be released when we finish the new user interface in the next big version. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for listening to my first video. If you have any questions, you can find me through contact information. Okay, bye bye.
Hello guys, very good to see you all. Hello people from Neo community. So we are here to spread the word on the latest updates of NeoResearch, and so we have quite a few, only a few topics. So first, one topic, topic 1 a little bit secret, topic 2 a little bit secret, and okay, topic 3 we'll talk a little about some advances on dBFT3 consensus proposal on double speaker and some ongoing work on ZK and centralized science. So the first good news is that we are officially releasing the book, the English book that we've been working. So it takes a lot of experience on classroom teaching with our students here, especially here in Brazil, and also hearing from some colleagues from the world. And then we shared before that we had some Brazilian version on Portuguese, but now we have some better version on English that we are able to share with everyone. And we also, the other news is that we also discovered that's quite a good thing to have some videos. So we also finally open a new section on the NeoResearch channel on YouTube, so now we can put these videos there. So we are starting with teaching basic blockchain setups, using tools for smart contracts in Neo, also already putting some advanced smart contract techniques, so something that's not quite trivial and hard to find. Also specific things from Neo, such as oracles and the newest features that are out, we are always testing. And also plan to put some advanced blockchain concepts on general and some experiments, also some scientific experiments, some speed up experiments that we do on the platform, so we can put there too. So now regarding the dBFT double speaker proposal, as you know, we've been working on a proposal that aims to increase the ability of the consensus to respond by not only having a single backup node, which is pretty standard and also pretty hard to extend. So we are extending it to 2 backups. So it's a little bit tricky, but implementation is now very advanced. So we've been testing this for a while in using the new compiler eco platform. So I think we may soon reach a point that that we need more reviews, I think, and maybe start thinking on a real merge. And we always emphasize that this change from 1 to 2 is not a small change, because this may have some very big gains, especially for community. We always reinforce this, that the ability of having some backup node that is not fully trusted by the consensus pool, it's really nice. So I think this may help decentralizing even more the process of having, you know, outside people, like people that contribute, people that want to host some process, and having some warm up nodes as backup and if they are okay on the right time, they respond quickly, maybe they get some benefits too. I think that's interesting for the community, and that's possible with this upgrade on the consensus. And finally, we have some advances in ZK learning. So now we are studying some state-of-the-art algorithms for building blind reviewer pools, which is really challenging on blockchain because of the anonymity that's required. And also we've advanced also in the modeling of these pools that we are calling now smart papers. So now I think we may enrich a little bit more this environment. So you know that we've been building this platform for decentralized science, and we also believe that now we have the ingredients to put it forward. And a little bit sharing, if you want to see the tutorial, you can follow, but quickly, if you want to use the new compiler eco platform a little bit for the devs, you just build. Now we've shared some tutorials on doing this inside the VS Code using this dev container protection. So now it's quite easy to install the platform and use without harming your computer and having any risk, because this is inside the computer. This is called Docker outside of Docker. Yeah? So everything is fine. And then you just open it locally on your computer. Now we have some embedded Explorer as well. So we have some compiling here. You can test and everything, invoke methods from even native contracts. So it's very good for learning and quick testing. That's something we've been enforcing. And that's it. So good to see you all. See you soon. Bye bye.
Hello everyone, we are NeoSPCC, and here is our update since August, when we had our previous community meeting. We work on NeoFS and NeoGo projects, and first let's talk about NeoFS. We were mostly working on stability improvements and bug fixes. We did a significant S3 compatibility improvements during this period, and now we work not only with a simple command line utilities, we also tested the compatibility with enterprise backup systems like Vim, and it works okay. We did a big improvement in our tree service, which allows to combine objects into the structured hierarchy, which is our way to provide versioning for the S3, and in future it may be used to provide file system-like drivers for the NeoFS. We now support data evacuation from the single shard of the storage node and from the node in whole. So if, for example, your NeoFS storage node has some disk malfunctioning, it will be switched to the degraded mode when it will be used in a read-only for read-only operations, and then you can evacuate the data to make sure that everything is clean before you remove the drive or you replace it. We also published more than 200 integration and failure test scenarios. We have a new repository which is now public on our GitHub, and this test suite can be used for NeoFS compatibility tests for other NeoFS implementations, like one done in C#. Using those tests, we did a significant performance and stability boost again. Now we are working on 25 gigabits per second on the enterprise hardware, and we can fully utilize this network capacity. And we are now working on the documentation side and our NeoFS site updates to provide more information about system internals and make it more friendly for the end user to set up own node and start working with NeoFS. So previous time we showed the NeoFS panel demo, and now it's ready for deployment. We are waiting for the mainnet and testnet updates. Unfortunately, we can't do it right away because we need a notary subsystem support. It works in testnet, but we need to do it in mainnet also. For the local deployments, we updated the NeoFS all-in-one repository. So now you can locally use the NeoFS in a container to experiment with it and debug your applications. And also we added the macOS support on ARM notebooks. And finally, we have Debian packages. So all NeoFS stack is now installable to any Debian system. During this period, we worked a lot with the issues. So for the NeoFS node, gateway, and other services, we have many new issues found using automated tests, and most of them are now fixed. We also closed many of the long-lasting issues for the S3 mainly. And that's all for the current update. Our next steps includes mostly mainnet and testnet updates for the NeoFS. As I mentioned before, we need to figure out the notary subsystem requirements. After that, we will deploy the NeoFS panel, which is WalletConnect integrated. So to use NeoFS, you will be able to just use your browser without any third-party software installation or without any complex local node manipulations. And we are updating our doc site and NeoFS site. We plan a restructure, and now the redesign is ready. So all of our site will be styled in the same way as the main neo.org site is done. And we expect the SDK 1.0, which many people asked for, with a stable interfaces for the API. It's almost complete. You can use the SDK release candidate now for a few months already, but we still want to spend some time on the stabilization. And next year, in long term, using the tree service, we plan to start working on the Razor coding support and the duplication support. But that's a long-term goals, and they require significant changes in the core of the NeoFS itself, mostly in the security subsystem with access control list, etc. So do not expect them in a first quarter at least. That's all for NeoFS stack. Next, let's go for NeoGo. Roman.
Thank you. Moving on to NeoGo. As previously, we have two main so-called tracks of what we're doing in NeoGo. That's the node itself and the app APIs, SDKs, basically all the things that we provide to write contracts in Go. Smart contracts in Go. So on the node side, we of course have made some releases and did our regular node maintenance, bug fixing, things like that. And actually, I wanted to say thanks to community members that were submitting bugs to us that we were fixing then and improving our node. It was a valuable feedback for us. And we also have improved some things in the P2P subsystem of our node. That's the connection handling. Mostly that's important for smaller networks like the ones used by NeoFS setups. We have more reliable and quicker setups for these networks now, I think. Less reconnects in various cases and more stable behavior. And we also have optimized our gossip and some transaction handling. So we have better TPS metrics for network scenarios as well in our new node releases that are available already. Also, we have implemented some maybe somewhat strange functionality that allows to reset node state to some previous block. I doubt many people will use it, but it's there for you if you really want to do that. And that's also a part of the recent releases. So on the smart contract SDK side, we have completed our RPC client refactoring, and that's an important step. because we have already this new API is already used by NeoFS, and that improved the backend code considerably, removing hundreds of lines of code and actually allowing to better handle some corner cases. And also allowing to have some optimized wait loops for transactions based on notifications. So yeah, that's what we have already. And we also have implemented state-dependent VM CLI. The VM CLI itself is kind of is one of the oldest things we have in the node. It actually was first implemented to just support some simple scripts like, that don't use any interrupts, that are pure VM code. And it was like that basically till the September, I guess, this year. Now we can also do some things with using this chain context, any chain, mainnet, testnet, whatever have you, private networks. And you can use it to run not just simple scripts, but also invoke some contracts and basically do some debugging, although it does not yet support any debug data. I think we will do that in the future, but it's not yet ready. Other than that, yes, it's already released as well, and you can use it. So what we have in the progress right now is dBFT research that mostly we're mostly concerned about liveness log. We know exists in the dBFT protocol, and we also want to have a better understanding of the dBFT 3.0 changes that are proposed for the protocol. So to better implement it, review it, we're doing some research right now. And also we are currently improving the RPC binding code generator we have for smart contracts. So a part of this work is already released and is available for use. I think it covers most of the regular use cases, but we know there is some additional data to be passed from smart contracts to the outside world to improve this RPC binding generation that mostly deals with the type data. The structured types and array types, they are still can be improved, and we are working on that. So that's what we have in progress and done already, and now let's move on to the things we are planning right now. So on the node side, of course, we will be implementing the protocol changes we have in the queue, and the upcoming 3.5.0 release, and all the associated things. We are also working on merging the notary subsystem into the main protocol, and we actually had some progress there in September, but now it seems to be stalled. But we'll be pushing it again because, as had been noted already, this affects NeoFS mainnet operation as well. So that's important for us. And we also want to try some storage schema optimization for the Neo contract, because we think it can be optimized and made to have a little less data in the database that's used for some gas calculations. So I think we will try that, but that's a bit experimental. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it will work fine. Maybe it's not going to work. So that's kind of a research topic for us too. But what we are also will be doing in the nearest future is working on the RPC and RPC error code standardization. We have this proposal sitting in the queue for some time already. I think it's time for us to move on with this as well, because this will be beneficial for all node implementations and users of the RPC API. Also, as we are working on the various bindings for smart contracts, we want to extend NEP14 smart contract API to have more rich type data. So I think we will be making a proposal for that too. And we have two more things from the previous to-do list. That's about smart contract data from different chains to be able to transfer them from one chain to another. And yes, that's still in our queue. And we also still want to have some support for storage schemas. So yes, we will be doing that as well. I think that's what we have for NeoGo. Thanks.
I'm here to give you a presentation about what is Digital Labs doing these months. So first of all, we have released the new 3.5.0 this week, and we are preparing the VM and the new nodes. The second one is the launch. We already launched the launch platform last month. It's a platform which can let developers and all the projects to open their space and let the users to vote some proposals which can lead to their next step. The third one is the new campus. In the last month, around October, we have finished a new tour in the US campus around 15 universities. And we made this new campus tour website and also a NFT claimable function. And every student during the new campus tour can collect their different NFTs according to their different campus. Next one is the NeoNS. The NeoNS already launched several months ago, and now we are preparing the personal web page binding, which is customized your Neo name service to your personal website or IP address, and we are investigating on it, and with the help of NeoSPCC. Finally, there is a NeoChat, which we are working now. It's an end-to-end encrypted messaging tool based on the answer address. That means if you want to send a message to some people or some address which you don't know who he is, you can just use their service and type the address in it, and we can send it with our service, and all the messages are encrypted by your address and signature. And that's all of our updates and what we are doing now. Thanks.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, whichever time zone you're in. John Davidos, your platform guy, based up here in Seattle. Wanted to give you a quick update on what we have been up to recently, what have we been spiking, prototyping, and also what we've been shipping recently on GitHub as well. However, before I jump in, I would like to share a short story with you. Back in October, we had the very successful and certainly a lot of fun Neo Campus tour. I had the privilege, the unique opportunity to meet with students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors across the U.S., West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. It was very uplifting, to be very honest, and certainly very gratifying as well to be able to meet young people, young men and women, to listen to their aspirations, their dreams, and to be able to play a small role in helping them realize their dreams. Now, it's very interesting, 3 out of 4, I would say, young people I had the chance to meet with, very core developers, very strong, outstanding devs in their own right, very comfortable, very familiar. And so we had some very, very deep discussions in terms of development, in terms of building, the tooling, in terms of the dev experience, but also the user experience that we want to be able to provide to delight, our customers that go well beyond the developers. Now you might say, well, if there was 3 out of 4, what about the remaining 1? It's very interesting as well. I would say, about 25% of the young people I met were not developers. They were more entrepreneurial businessmen, businesswomen, looking to build a business, a startup, And very interesting, they were at these meetups, our meetups, to be able to meet and find a very technical co-founder. And so even though, this 25% were not really developers themselves, I would say, it was still very gratifying to listen to them in terms of their expectations, and also how much emphasis and effort and how much they prioritize being able to have a strong dev co-founder on their team in order to be successful. And so that's a good segue, I guess, in terms of what we do up here in Seattle, building the N3 developer toolkit and more. You guys know in terms of what's out there in the portfolio. But in terms of building and tooling, sometimes, looking in from the outside, looking at a platform, especially a dev platform evolving, sometimes might look like, this Rubik's Cube, it's sort of scrambled. And you say, well, what are the patterns? How does it come together? I'm a platform guy. And when I think about platforms, I think of it very much like this. The pieces, the building blocks, as they come together to create, this truly fulfilling set of capabilities that can manifest the underlying design patterns. And so in terms of updates, I want to give you three, focus areas, just to give you sort of a broader view of what we do, what we are building, and what you can expect from us in the coming months, and certainly over the coming year and more. The first thing I want to say is, when you look at the platform, we want to be able to go down into the nuts and bolts, the weeds, if you will, in terms of code execution. And obviously, we have the best smart contract debugger in the industry. We have obviously been building on it in terms of tools for testing and so on. But areas like profiling and insights, analysis are also very, very important for us, as we look to enhance the toolkit to enable those capabilities. And currently, one area in terms of sort of the micro, if you will, is the code coverage for testing. You may have seen me talk about this recently on Twitter, 100% code coverage. That is the goal, right? And again, not all of us might get there. It's okay, but you should not aim for anything less. And so based on recent feedback and certainly recent requests from a number of large N3 projects, we are in the middle of shipping this new code coverage capability to enhance the N3 test framework. That's number one. Number two, again, in terms of thinking about how the puzzle pieces come together at a macro level, it's very clear to us over the last few months that there is a gap between the private net, the test net, and the main net. It was very apparent to us, especially, Harry, myself, the guys up here in Seattle, as we were building ourselves these smart contracts, the DApps, that there was a very clear need for a work group net. And so we call this WorkNet. We have shipped a preview. And by the way, if you haven't, tried it, I would strongly recommend, download it, give it a spin, give me feedback. I want to hear from you. But the core thesis is this: much like in terms of GitHub and branches, being able to have a work area for a team of developers working on a project to take a snapshot, if you will, of the main net or a test net, to be able to create multiple branches, to use our time travel debugging to be able to go back or forward, and of course to test, your smart contracts. It's a very critical piece that, in fact, thus far across the industry has not been emphasized enough. And so once again, we want to push the envelope, to raise the bar, if you will, if I want to use a mixed metaphor, with respect to the macro of really building out this missing puzzle piece, which we call the WorkNet. Again, it's on GitHub. That was number two. Number three, something which we have been spiking, and in fact, we have been prototyping for quite some time recently, is around the life cycle, the life cycle with respect to smart contracts. You know, I've always told you that for us, the goal is to build the best, the premier, the industry leading developer experience on Neo N3. And so the life cycle for smart contracts is something I believe there is still a lot of work to be done. And I'll share with you more in the coming weeks and months as we build on this. But think through at the micro, at the nuts and bolts of code execution, at the macro, the various capabilities, the I guess the puzzle pieces, if you will, and thirdly, the life cycle, the dev life cycle. Those are broadly where you'll see me giving you updates, as we do more and more of these video sharing. On that note, I want to thank you all for your support. Thank you for the feedback as well. On Discord, on Twitter, I'm always available. Ping me anytime. I would like to take this time to wish you and your families a Merry Christmas and a very joyous holiday season, and look forward to seeing you again on the other side in 2023. So with that, I'm going to give it to my friend, my colleague Harry over here, and I know he's waiting to show you something around code coverage and more. So with that, Harry, I'll give it to you, man. All right, off you go.
Hey everybody, this is Harry Pearson from NGD Enterprise. I want to show off a feature that we've been working on for the test framework, code coverage. This is the standard registrar sample. You can find it in my GitHub, github.com/devhog/registrar sample. This is the sample that we keep up to date for all of the changes as Neo ships new versions, as the tools ship new versions. We update this sample to make sure that it's working with the latest and greatest, both from the tooling and from the platform. So you can see I've actually made a few changes here. I've taken the domain storage file and stuck it out in a separate file, that class, but otherwise it's pretty much just the same example that you can see up on GitHub today. The one big thing that I've changed about this is that I'm running against a version of the test framework that's local to this machine. The bits are pushed up to GitHub, but we haven't merged these changes in, so you're seeing stuff that's not really quite ready for prime time. We're hoping to ship this as part of the 3.5 release, but I just wanted to show you where we're at with this stuff. So you can see here that I've got this, this preview version of 3.5 is not even merged, so the versioning information that we use gets this long git tag here. That's this G239 information. Anyway, so I'm going to do a git clean just so you guys can show that I've got nothing up my sleeve. Not that you can see my sleeves, but I'm going to do a .NET build. For those of you who don't use .NET, I'm just going to do the build. I'm using the existing build tools that automatically run both the C# compiler, the Neo C# compiler. You can see that in the build SPU here, and it automatically runs Neo Express as part of the build. In addition to that, part of the thing that's interesting about this sample is that we have a bunch of tests. Let me close the terminal window here. So we have a bunch of tests, and all of these tests use something that's called the test application engine. So this is a version of the application engine that ships in Neo. Test application engine actually inherits from application engine, so it does everything the normal application engine can do, but it's got a bunch of additional helpers and stuff like that that are specific to the test framework. In particular, for this specific sample, if you go to run tests and you say that you would like to collect code coverage, the test application engine will automatically write out raw code coverage information to a temp directory. And this new component of the test framework, the collector, the Neo collector, will automatically pick up those raw files, combine them, and then emit a code coverage file, hopefully eventually in a format that's standardized so it works with existing tools, but right now it's using a temporary format of my own creation. So let's see this in action. We saw the build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run .NET test, which just run all the tests in the directory, and I'm going to add this extra collect Neo code coverage. So this is the name of the code coverage component. In fact, if we look here real quick, we'll shut this down for 1 second, go back here and look at the registrar. You'll notice that in addition to the normal Neo assertions, Neo build tasks, we now have this new Neo collector. And if you'll notice, by the way, that this is private assets equals all. What this basically means, for those of you who are not familiar with C# build files, is that we're not going to actually take a physical dependency on Neo collector. We're only using it during the build process. We're not actually using it in the final output. This is different from, say, like the Neo assertions or the Neo test harness, which are actually compiled directly into the tests, obviously, right? So let's go back to the terminal. So now I'm going to actually run this. And we can see here that it's going to emit, we're not necessarily going to emit all this extra warning code. Eventually, again, we're still in development here, but you can see here that we've set a test execution variable for, Harry app data local temp h1q, and this is just a temp directory. We've seen that we've actually discovered that there's a contract in this test file. I'll show you how that works in a minute. And then these are the raw text files that are actually getting consumed. Some of these are code coverage files, and some of these are scripts. Every time the test engine loads a new script, looking at its script hash, and by the way, this is the script's actual hash, not the calculated script hash that is used for deployment. So that way it's always unique, regardless of, because it's generated, it's basically a ripe MD160 hash of just the script itself. That way we can associate it with the debug information, and we can make sure we only write it out once, etc., etc. So we use all that information in order to generate these attachments. You'll notice there's 2 attachments, and in fact, if we look in the test directory, we'll see here that there's a folder called test results. And test results has 2 files. This one here, which is a raw text file. So this is basically just the raw combined information about the addresses that were hit and the branches that were hit. So you can see that these branches branch, on address 15. The branch was done once, so it's been hit 3 times total. Once the branch was taken, and twice it continued. That's what this information says. This is obviously not very useful. It doesn't have any way to associate back to, say, line numbers or anything like that that a developer would actually understand and care about. So we're also working on a format. This is similar conceptually to the standard de facto standard Colberta format, but it is specific to Neo. So you can see here that we're actually being able to figure out by line number. So this line number, which has address 3, was hit 3 times during this, and it's not a branch. Line number 18, it's address 4. It starts on address 4. It had 3 hits, and it is a branch, so it actually has 3 separate branch statements as part of that one line. So all this information is getting emitted directly into this XML file. Eventually, we'll also have some information in here about code coverage, like percentage of lines covered and that kind of stuff. But we just haven't quite gotten that far yet. As I said, we're close here, but we're not quite done. We do think we'll have this ready for 3.5. One other quick thing to show you is, in case you're not familiar, we're actually, if you look at the code for these tests, one second here, I want to show you that when you actually use the test engine, you can actually use this line of code here that says execute script. You tell it the type, in this case it's the registrar script, and you can actually emit what looks like a call to say, I'm going to call the register method with the domain name and the Alice account. And what's interesting here is that all of that code is being generated directly from the manifest. So even if you're not writing your contracts in C#, you can write your tests in C#. And you take advantage of this really nice syntax, this strongly typed way of saying, because this line here gets converted by the test framework into NeoVM code and gets executed on the test application engine directly. And we do that with a generated code. If we look here, you can see this is this registrar contract interface. This is generated by the build tools. So you can see here we're generating a C# interface that represents all of the methods of the contract, query, register, transfer. All of this stuff is being pulled directly from the manifest. And then we also have this extra custom attribute now. We've just added this for this new work, which has the name of the contract and the path to the manifest. And by finding the path to the manifest, we can also then find the path to the debug information and the actual NEF file, which is all used as part of the code coverage. So there you see a very quick demo of the new code coverage information that's going to be coming as part of Neo 3.5 in the blockchain toolkit. This has been Harry. It's really great to see you guys. I hope you're all having a happy holiday, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in person in the coming year.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Daniela Valdivieso from Red4Sec Cybersecurity, and following I will give you a brief summary about us and the work we have done in the current quarter so far. These will be the main points that we will be going over during the presentation. Our main objectives, the projects audited by month for this fourth quarter, the vulnerability summaries of this past quarter, and an overall summary of the year so far. For those who do not know us, we are Red4Sec Cybersecurity, a company specialized in blockchain technologies, ethical hacking, and penetration testings. We also perform all kinds of security audits, of course. And we have worked together with Neo since 2017. Our objectives are to analyze the project by reviewing and verifying that the code implementation and cryptographic components are secure. This is possible by meticulously analyzing the code to detect potential vulnerabilities in blockchains and smart contracts before the code is publicly deployed, of course. Further in, our other objectives are to evaluate and verify the security of Neo, to guarantee the effectiveness of the security measures implemented, to assess and maintain the security of all the smart contract projects in the Neo ecosystem, as requested, and to analyze the source code of smart contracts submitted in order to detect all the potential vulnerabilities affecting the projects, to identify and advocate safeguard measures, and we also give security advice to Neo and the communities to help secure the ecosystem. I would like to mention that this quarter we have been completely focused on Flamingo's newest project, FUSD, which is its stablecoin. In September, we planned and started the first audit for FUSD, in which we found a total of 18 vulnerabilities. Red4Sec determines the vulnerability severity in the levels of risk according to the impact level defined by CDSS. As you may see in the graph, during this audit, we found and reported 1 critical vulnerability, 1 high, 2 medium, 6 low, and 8 informative. Following, in October, we continued to report to FUSD and we provided mitigation support for Flamingo. We also performed a C-over of the Ghost Market project and their needs for the securitization of the received scopes. You may see a similar graph since we were still working on that first audit and mitigation support. Moving forward, in November, we planned and performed a second audit of the FUSD project, in which we found and reported a total of 16 vulnerabilities. As you may see in the graph, there was 1 critical vulnerability, 0 high, 1 medium, 5 low, and 9 informative. Next, you can find a list of the most relevant vulnerabilities found in this quarter so far, which may help you with your own project. In the critical vulnerabilities, there is unchecked transfer returned, incorrect repay logic leads to free minting, and price oracle manipulation. In the high vulnerabilities, you can find mixed collateral storage, and we listed 4 million vulnerabilities for your information as well. Finally, you can see a graph of the vulnerabilities found and reported throughout this year. In Q1, 62 vulnerabilities were found and reported. In the second quarter, 121 vulnerabilities were found and reported. In quarter 3, 43 vulnerabilities were found and reported. And in the fourth quarter, the current one, 34 vulnerabilities have been found and reported so far. As you can see, the vulnerabilities are separated by their level of criticality. Black for critical, red for high, and so on. And the current quarter is shaded as there is still 1 month of work to be done coming this December. Each column has a number of issues found in each level of risk for your information. And so far, we have reported a total of 260 vulnerabilities this year so far. If you have any questions, you can always contact us Thank you for watching and for your attention.